T-Pain is an American singer, songwriter, rapper, and record producer. His real name is Fahim Rashid Najam, and he was born on September 30th, 1985 in Tallahassee, Florida. His stage name, which is short for Tallahassee Pain, shows how hard it was for him to grow up in a tough place. T-Pain grew up in a Muslim family and became interested in music at a young age. By the time he was 10, he had taught himself how to play the keyboard and was trying out recording equipment. He turned a bedroom into a makeshift studio, which helped him come up with his unique sound. Pain became famous in the middle of the 2000s. He changed the music industry by using autotune, a pitch correction tool, in a way that became his signature vocal style. R.A.P., his first album, had the hit song I'm Sprung, which reached number 18 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. His second album, Epiphany, 2007, made him a star with hits like Buy You a Drink, Shoddy Snapping, and Bartender. His third album, Thar 33 Rings, 2008, had hits like Can't Believe It and Chopped and Screwed. This showed off his range as an artist who is known for working with others. Tayne worked with artists like Kanye West, Good Life, Flo Rida, Low, and Jamie Foxx. He won Grammys for Good Life and Blame It. He had a huge impact on hip-hop and pop music because he was the first to use autotune in a new way, which inspired artists like Travis Scott and Future. T-Pain took a break from his career from 2011 to 2017, during which time he only released 2 singles because of personal problems. He made a comeback with projects like Oblivion, 2017. His win on The Masked Singer in 2019 brought back public interest, and he kept making music, including the single Dreaming in 2024. People on X talk about how important he was in shaping modern music, with some calling him a trailblazer whose style was copied and mocked. T-Pain also tried his hand at other things like starting Nappy Boy Entertainment, hosting podcasts, and being on TV shows like The Masked Singer and Freaknik the Musical. His 2017 acoustic tour showed off his natural singing voice, which was better than Auto-Tune #1. T-Pain's career is going down, and he's depressed. 2011 to 2015, a story of strength in the face of hardship. Pain's rise to fame was closely tied to his creative use of autotune, a pitch correction tool that he turned into a style. His first album, R.A.P.T, saw 2005, and later ones like Epiphany 2007 and Thar 33 Rings 2008 had a futuristic sound that fans loved and that artists like Kanye West and Lil Wayne copied. But by the start of the 2000s, the music business and the way people felt about it started to change. Autotune was once praised for being new, but critics said it hid vocal talent and made music sound the same. Tayne, as the face of this trend, took the most heat. Both critics and peers called his work a gimmick and said it hurt real singers. Social media sites, like Early Post on X, showed a split view. Some people praised T-Pain's campaign as groundbreaking, while others made fun of how much he relied on technology. This criticism was not only professional, but also very personal, because it called into question the truth of his art. The constant criticism made Tay less sure of himself, which led to a key moment that would send him into a deep depression in 2011. An interaction with fellow artist Usher that seemed harmless turned out to be a turning point in T-Pain's career. Usher said in a conversation that T-Pain had ruined music for real singers by making autotune popular. T-Pain said in later interviews that this comment from a respected peer hit him hard. T-Pain said that Usher's words stuck with him, making him feel even more unsure about his place in the music business. Tayne had worked with a lot of artists, including Usher, and he saw himself as part of a creative community, so the criticism felt like a betrayal. You can't say enough about how this conversation made you feel. Tayne took in the idea that his new idea had hurt music, and the fact that the rest of the industry didn't like autotune only made that idea stronger. This moment started a 4-year period of depression for T-Pain, during which he struggled with self-doubt and a lack of creative drive. He felt alone and unmotivated because people were losing interest in his music, and he was being blamed for changing the music scene. From 2011 to 2015, T-Pain's career hit a big low point. He only put out 2 singles between 2011 and 2017. T-Pain's albums like Revolver 2011 didn't do as well commercially as his earlier work, and he had a hard time finding his place in an industry that seemed to have moved on. He didn't choose not to make new music, it was a sign of how he was feeling. During this time, depression took away his creativity, making it hard for him to write, record, or perform with the same passion that had defined his earlier career. T-Pain stepped back from the spotlight because he felt like he wasn't important anymore. The music industry is changing quickly with new artists and trends popping up all the time. This made him feel even more like he was being left behind. Fans were confused and worried during this time, as shown by posts on X. Some people wondered why he wasn't there, while others were sad that there wasn't any new material. Tayne later said that this was a time when he felt up for a long time, which shows how deep his emotional struggle was. T-Pain's personal life also suffered because of his career problems and depression. He has talked about how hard it is for his mental health, saying that he has had times of deep sadness and disconnection. He was proud of his career, but when he thought it was falling apart, he started to doubt who he was as an artist. But T-Pain's support system, especially his wife, was very important in helping him get through this tough time. Her support was like a lifeline, reminding him that he was worth more than what other people thought of him. Not making any music during this time meant missed chances and a lessening presence in mainstream music. T-Pain's public persona faded, but he kept working as a songwriter and producer behind the scenes. The funny thing was that a lot of artists started using autotune, the very tool that T-Pain had been criticized for, without giving him credit for it. This lack of credit made him even more angry as he watched others build on his idea while he tried to get back on his feet. T-Pain started to get better from his depression in 2015, but it wasn't a quick or easy process. His 2017 acoustic tour, where he sang without autotune, was a brave show of his vocal skills and a way for him to take back his story. The tour got good reviews, with both fans and critics praising his natural talent. Oblivion came out in 2017 during this time, which was a sign of a return to form. Tay's win on The Masked Singer in 2019 gave his career a new lease on life by showing off his range and reminding people of his lasting talent. Tayne has talked about how important it is to be strong during this time. He said in an interview in 2024 that he was the happiest he had been in years and that his recovery was due to personal growth and a renewed love of creativity. Fans are posting on X to celebrate T-Pain's return, and many of them say that his struggles made him more relatable and his successes more inspiring. Number 2, T-Pain's golf cart accident in 2007 was a painful setback in his rise to fame. Tay was riding the wave of success in 2007 after the release of Epiphany, which debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and made him a pioneer in the music business. In the midst of all this fame, a seemingly normal activity turned deadly while riding a golf cart. Probably during a casual outing or event, T-Pain lost 4 teeth in an accident. Public accounts didn't go into much detail about the incident, like where it happened or why, but the effects were quick and severe. The accident was called a freak event, which means it was an unexpected mistake that surprised T-Pain at a time when he was doing well in his career. The physical toll was huge. Losing 4 teeth in one accident is not only painful, but also traumatic, and it needs to be treated right away and rebuilt. The injury was both a personal and professional challenge for an artist whose public image was based on his charm and stage presence. The accident happened when T-Pain was always in the public eye, performing, working with others, and promoting his music. As a rising star, this made the physical and emotional effects even stronger. tpain was used to getting attention from the media, but the golf cart accident made him famous for more than just his music. The tabloids and entertainment news made a big deal out of the story of a chart-topping artist getting hurt in a strange way. Back then, posts on X and other early social media sites showed a mix of concern and interest from fans, as well as mocking comments from people who didn't like the show. Because the accident was public, T-Pain was even more vulnerable as he dealt with the pain of his injury in front of an audience that wanted to know everything. The media's focus on the accident often made people forget about T-Pain's music. This scrutiny turned a complicated artist into a headline about a dental mishap, which made an already painful situation even worse for T-Pain, who had to deal with jokes and speculation about his looks and the circumstances of the accident. T-Pain, an artist whose stage name came from the hardships of his childhood, had to go through this incident as another form of pain. This time it happened on a public stage. The golf cart accident happened at a very important time in T-Pain's career, when he was becoming a major player in the music business. The injury to his body necessitated dental work, probably involving implants or other reconstructive surgeries, which might have interfered with his ability to perform or record. T-Pain's signature auto-tune-heavy style didn't depend only on how he looked. His confidence and stage presence were also very important to his performances. Losing 4 teeth, even for a short time, probably made him feel bad about himself and made it harder to keep up a polished public image. The accident made things even harder for T-Pain, who was already having a hard time with his rapid rise to fame. In the late 2000s, the music business was very competitive and there were always new content needs. The accident was a shocking reminder of how vulnerable T-Pain was, even though it was not as bad as some of the tragedies that happened later in his life, like the murder of his niece in 2016. It broke the story of invincibility that often comes with becoming famous, making T-Pain realize how fragile his success was at such a young age. The incident didn't stop T-Pain's progress right away. He kept making hit music like his third album, 33 Rings, 2008, which had hits like Can't Believe It and Chopped and Screwed. But the accident made the pressures of fame even worse, which led to personal problems that would eventually lead to a depression from 2011 to 2015. The public's obsession with the event and T-Pain's physical recovery probably put him to the test early on to see if he could get through hard times. Tay's reaction to the golf cart accident showed how strong he was, a quality that would define much of his career. He had dental reconstruction despite the pain and public scrutiny, and he reportedly chose high-quality dental work to restore his smile in a lighthearted moment. T-Pain later talked about the event and made fun of his new grill, saying he was happy to be able to move on. This funny thing, which is a big part of his personality, helped him take back some control over the story about the accident. T-Pain didn't let the event stop him from making music. T-Pain 33's success as a musician after the accident, including working with artists like Kanye West on Good Life and Flo Rida on Low, showed that he could turn personal problems into professional successes. His willingness to keep performing and coming up with new ideas, even after such a public and painful event, showed how determined he was to overcome obstacles. The golf cart accident in 2007 was a small event in the grand scheme of T-Pain's life, but it was a big deal that showed how fame, vulnerability, and resilience can all come together. It was an early lesson in how to deal with the problems that come with being famous, when personal mistakes become public spectacles. The incident also gave a hint of the bigger problems that T-Pain would have to deal with later, like backlash from the industry and personal tragedies that tested his mental and emotional strength. The accident is a small part of T-Pain's career, but it is an important one. It made an artist who is often thought of as larger than life seem more like a real person, reminding fans and critics that even famous people have problems that come up. People who write about T-Pain's career on X often say that his ability to get through hard times is proof of his strength, and fans praise his honesty and determination. The accident, which was painful and embarrassing at the time, became part of T-Pain's story of overcoming obstacles, which is a theme that runs through his third journey. T-Pain's fight against death and threats of kidnapping is a secret struggle that comes with being famous. T-Pain's fame grew with albums like Epiphany, 2007, and 33 Rings, 2008. He became a well-known person, which brought him both fans and unwanted attention. The threats of death and kidnapping he received were said to be real, which means they were serious enough to make him worry, probably with the help of the police or private security. T-Pain has chosen to keep the details to himself, possibly to protect his family, keep his personal space, or avoid making the threats worse. These events were not just rumors, they were real threats that made him feel unsafe. There is no public record of when these threats happened, but they probably happened when he was at the height of his fame in the late 2000s or early 2010s, when he was the most visible. Celebrities are often threatened by people who want attention, money, or revenge, and T-Pain's fame made him a target. The nature of kidnapping threats specifically indicates a direct risk not only to T-Pain, but potentially to his family, including his wife and children. Making the situation even more emotionally heavy, T-Pain's mental health was greatly affected by the threats of death and kidnapping he received. These threats made the artist T-Pain feel even more vulnerable and scared. His stage name T-Pain was based on the struggles he had growing up in Tallahassee. Being constantly aware of possible danger put people in a state of hypervigilance, which is a mental burden that can make them feel less safe and healthy. T-Pain has been honest about his struggles with mental health, especially during the time when his career was going downhill from 2011 to 2015. The threats he got during this time probably made things even harder for him emotionally. The fear that comes from these kinds of threats is not just abstract, it is very real. The thought of hurting himself or someone he cares about can make T-Pain anxious, paranoid, and feel alone all the time. He was already dealing with the stress of fame, public scrutiny, criticism from the industry, and the need to be creative all the time. These threats made an already hard situation even harder. The fact that there isn't much public information about the incident suggests that T-Pain wants to protect himself and his family from more exposure. It also shows how hard it is to live with these kinds of fears. The public nature of T-Pain's career as a celebrity probably made the psychological effects worse. He couldn't easily get away from the public eye, but the threats made it more dangerous for him to go out in public and perform. Social media sites like X, which weren't as popular in the late 2000s, later showed that fans knew about T-Pain's problems. Some fans were worried about his safety, while others guessed what kind of pressure he was under. Tayne may have felt even more alone because he couldn't fully talk about or share the threats with others. He had to deal with this danger in relative silence. Tayne had to deal with the darkest side of fame after receiving death and kidnapping threats. This is something that many celebrities deal with, but don't talk about openly to protect themselves. T-Pain probably took extra security steps, like hiring bodyguards or working with the police, but he hasn't said much about them in public. These steps, while necessary, can make a public figure even more distant from their fans, making it harder for them to connect with them. This extra layer of protection may have made T-Pain feel like he was losing his professional freedom, since his charm and approachability were two of the things that made him popular. During his peak years, T-Pain didn't stop making music right away because of the threats. He kept working with artists like Kanye West and Flo Rida, but the emotional toll probably stayed with him, which made his mental health problems worse over time. Haha. In the early 2010s, the threats, along with other problems like the backlash from the music industry over his autotune use and a painful golf cart accident in 2007, made his life very hard and tested his strength. T-Pain's ability to keep making music during this time, despite the threats, shows how determined he is to keep going. He didn't let fear control his career when he worked on Theory 33 Rings and other projects after that. But the psychological effects of living with the constant threat of violence or abduction probably changed how he saw things, which may have led to the depression he later had. T-Pain has said in interviews that he has felt up for a long time, which probably means that he was scared and vulnerable because of these threats. T-Pain's journey through this time of fear and weakness shows how strong he is, even though the details of how he dealt with the threats are still private. His ability to keep his career going and eventually take back his story shows that he became stronger through hard times. His wife's support was very important for his emotional recovery. By 2017, he was dealing with both personal and professional problems, and she was there for him through it all. T-Pain's acoustic tour and later works like Oblivion showed that he could move on from past traumas and be creative again. Winning The Masked Singer in 2019 was a big deal because it brought T-Pain back to a new generation and showed off his skills outside of autotune. Fans connected with this victory and his honesty about his mental health issues, as shown by the many posts praising his return and honesty. T-Pain said he was the happiest he had been in years by 2024. This showed that he was able to get over the fear and vulnerability that the threats made him feel. T-Pain's journey is one of strength, from changing the way music is made with autotune to getting over personal and professional problems. His biography shows that he was a self-made artist who turned T-Pain into art, and his career shows that he was creative and adaptable. The sad things he went through, depression, loss, and being turned down by the industry, show the human cost of fame, but his ability to bounce back shows how lasting his impact is.